Describe a one-man band.
I see a lot of different instruments, and this person trying to play all of them at the same time, looking rather bizarre.
He wears a miner's cap with a cymbal on top.
He has a washboard on a rope around his neck.
Someone who takes care of all the parts needed all by himself.
Is one of those guys from Hungary who can carry a drum on the front of him. He's got cymbals on his shoes and like other cymbals and stuff on his hands and his head.
And when he gets going, he can do it all in one motion and hit everything at once.
Anything that's out of the ordinary is good.
I guess it's tough to play more than one instrument in an accomplished way.
Depending on how many external things he's got going on, he might or might not be biting off more than he can chew.
It's boring to see somebody do something you know they can do it. It's like, I already know you can do that. You know, show me something new.
Because I can. I do it because I can, and I love to do it. There's not a lot of one-man bands that I know of that can do what I do. I mean, there's not any that can do what I can do that I know
There's a problem and they solve the problem with whatever way they figure out. Like the way I solved the problem was I built this and I learned how to play it.
One-man bands can be traced back to the medieval times, before the advent of popular music. At the time, traveling minstrels would play drums, flutes, bells around the ankles, and that was the way people enjoyed music. As time went on, musicians got access to different instruments, and by the time the Industrial Revolution happened, there were busy city streets and lots of pubs, so there were places for a variety of more complex one-man bands to play. Some of them built crazy contraptions that were limited musically, but would attract a big crowd, and some of them were more focused on the music, and frankly, they were good musicians. Jesse Fuller was one of the most well-known of the early one-man bands. He was born in the late 1800s in Georgia and played many instruments as well as designing one of his own called the Footdella.
Hanging around a skid game, sure get you down, sure get you down, sure get you down. Hanging around a skid game, sure get you down, sure get you down.
He would open for rock groups like the Rolling Stones and had songs covered by the Grateful Dead. But Jesse Fuller was just the tip of the one-man band iceberg.
Yeah, there was 3 one-man bands on Sun in the 50s. There was Dr. Ross Johnson. There was also Joe Hill Lewis. He was the first one, and that's where Dr. Ross patterned himself after him. And also a guy named Frank Frost. And they would play drums and play guitar and harmonica and sing at the same time. Well, Joe Hill Lewis and B.B. King were DJs at the same record label, WDIA, which was the first all-black radio station in the United States. And it's interesting that they were also recording both of them at Sun at the same time, and they couldn't be any farther apart in the spectrum of music. With B. King, with just 10-piece band and very slick songs, and Joe Hill Lewis, of course, it would just be him, drums, harmonica, and guitar, and very primal, one riff kind of songs. They couldn't be any farther apart, but they were the exact same time.
I know it might sound crazy, but sometimes I get influenced by musicians or groups that I've never even seen before, that I've only heard about. Because my mother grew up out in the country, and she told me that they had one-man bands back in the 40s and 50s that would play in these small towns out in Louisiana. And I've searched to try to find some of them, and I never can. So I get influenced by thinking about maybe what did they sound like, and just kind of inventing it in my head and saying, oh, maybe that's what they sound like, and try to write stuff like that.
All right, we out here in Longview, Washington. We're getting ready to have this little street performance, baby. My name's the King Louie One-Man Band.
I play out on the street. I just set up, anywhere I want. I just set up right there and I start playing. Bang, 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 bang. Wah, 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 wah. Yee-hoo.
Shake it, baby, shake it. Shake it for you, man, yeah.
I do think that the one-man band is an interesting cultural thing, in the sense that here's a guy basically who is either unwilling or unable to work with other musicians, and finds a way to do it himself.
You don't have to sit there and continually change your focus on the bass player, to the guitars, to the drummer, to the singer. It's all in a neat little package for lazy eyes.
Shake it, baby!
It's 11:48 p.m. You are listening to Scene of the Crime on KDHX St. Louis Community Radio. Up next, we have the great one-man band Hasil Adkins, the original Wild Man with Going Back to St. Louis.
When you consider that Hasil's been releasing music for over 40 years now, he really has not changed at all, really, from what his first singles were. I mean, he's kept the same sort of gut bucket production levels, and I think that's definitely lent his music a real flavor. It's sort of, he's got his own style because of that, and it's recognizably Hasil. I thought it was incompetent in some cases, but that part of his appeal actually was its incompetence.
The first time I heard Hasil Adkins, I hated him. I was just like, what the fuck, why are you playing this? Maybe Hasil Adkins is like beer, like your first swill of beer or something. Tastes like shit, but eventually you get used to it, and by the time that you're old and have a big beer belly like this, you love it. You can't live without it.
The main reason why I like Hasil is because he's just so in your face. I mean, he puts all of his energy, his whole body, everything about him into his music, and he just creates this incredible sound that most bands can't even compare to. You know, I just compare him with things that are just out of control, just wild.
I'm HASIL Adkins, and I live in Madison, West Virginia, Boone County, and I try to play music. Well, I live in Madison, Boone County, West Virginia. Woo! Live in Madison, Boone County, West Virginia. And I've got the Madison. See Madison, blue, 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 blue. Rock it, baby. Let's sing the Madison blues. Wow! Rock it, baby. Show me that thing. Shake that thing.
Hasil Adkins grew up in Boone County, West Virginia, raised in a two-room tar paper shack with 8 brothers and sisters, and frankly, actually, I think he lived with his mother until well into his middle ages, and so I think that sort of shaped the direction for his style.
Look out, baby, go stay with me, hey. Whoa! Got a hacksaw, baby, hacksaw fish on. I started with a milk can, you know, beating on the bottom of the milk can. When I got a whole one, then I went from that to a 4-pound Lloyd grease bucket. Then I went to a 10-quart water bucket, and then I went to a wash tub. And everything got a hold on sounding better.
When Hasil was a kid and would listen to the radio and hear a lot of Hank Williams tunes, he wasn't aware at the time that Hank had a band, a backing band as well. So when he started to play music himself, he thought that he could reproduce all those sounds by himself.
Well, they had the drum, bass, and what they had with them, you know, harp and all that, and pianos and stuff. I thought the one man was doing all that. So I got to thinking, well, I said, if I keep on fooling with it, I'm going to have to get good, just as good or better what they are, or you ain't gonna get no place with it, you know. So I just come up with what I'm doing. Yeah, I found out that they wasn't doing it all themselves, you know, pretty early, but I was always started in, so I just kept going with what I was doing, you know. And I said, well, this is better. They got bands, you know, in behind them, so I keep going with what I'm doing. I've always had it started, so I wasn't going to stop, you know.
I think Hasil's definitely one of the main kind of originators of punk. I mean, he's yeah, the original punk idea, the do-it-yourself ethic, everything relating to that. Hasil is putting out his own records. He's been recording himself for years and years. I just really admire him for that, you know, he hasn't changed, even though labels are, you know, begging him to put out records and that. He's just still does everything on his own terms.
How people get into music in general, they want to be a big band, they want to make a living doing this. And if you're going to do that, you're going to sort of set yourself up to say, okay, well, I need, you know, a bass player and a drummer, and I got to look conventional. I've got to, like, get this is what's happening now. I've got to be a certain way. Odds are I will be more successful if these things happen. But if you're in a one-man band, you're obviously just saying screw all that stuff, because it's, you know, you're immediately putting yourself in a position where you're less likely to succeed. So obviously what you're doing is coming from your heart.
At the very beginning of Mary Poppins, after the credits roll, it's Dick Van Dyke, and he's got like a bass drum and a cymbal strapped to his back, and he's playing one of those squeeze organs. You know,
I think it's an imaginary world that he created, and he's the head of the imaginary world, McCa land, so that makes him the mayor. Self-inducted, of course. When you think one-man bands, you think of someone marching around in a parade with a big kick drum on their back and a cymbal on their head and a guitar, you know, and they're flapping their arms to make the drum go while they're playing guitar or something. I didn't really think it was like a workable option. until I actually sat down, watched him play, saw him sit on his drum with his tambourine shoe and playing his kick drum with the other foot. It worked out really well.
Yeah, but I come from Holland, you know, and we had a guy like this, but he was one more walking the streets, and he was going with his legs like that. Really cute, you know, really nice. But he was old, you know, he became old, and then he had a kind of a bike, and he had all his junk on the bike, walking the streets like that. Yeah, I've seen this before. Never seen it in Hamilton though. But you know, it's good. He's good. I like it. He's unique.
Gus! Everybody, come on! Woo! Gus! Yeah, all right. Rock and roll, audience. Gus! Now keep doing it, right? You are a big black dog. You have a little limb. You scare back your tears. You knock things over with your tail. Gus! Gus! Gus!
I was one of those kids when I was young who always had to be the center of attention. You know, would you just calm down for a minute, CA?
I used to get so excited I'd puke. I did that at my 4th birthday. I don't know how it happened exactly. My dad was just filming us, telling us to jump around. Okay, who can be the craziest? And I jumped around till I puked. And he's got a nice little movie of it. You know, what? The day it happened, the day I became a one-man band, I saw Eugene Chadbourne play in a record store for like 50 minutes on a mop with some fishing wire around it and like a ladybug toy attached to a guitar pickup. He's like, man, if that guy can play guitar like that for 45 minutes, I can play kicking a goddamn guitar case for a half hour and do the same thing. Song-wise, you can do anything you want at any given time. Basically, it's just me and the guitar, which is one of my best friends, so it's easy. The guitar's it's acoustic guitar, and I got an electric guitar pickup, and I got an acoustic pickup, and I got 2 holes, one for each one. Goes to one amp, and one goes to a different amp. So you got distortion there, and acoustic sounds like that. That's one of my favorite sounds, and this thing picks that up really good. And that's my guitar. Here's where I wore it away, and here too. These are my favorite spots to go, you can see. And you can't really see, but I'm digging holes in the neck right here and here from my fat strings. It's a little guitar canyon, I like to call it.
Got to see this guy is unbelievable. He wears, you know, a helmet, talks through a phone.
How the helmet works? The helmet sits on my head. I put a phone through it, a hole in the bubble mask, and I use hot glue to glue it to the bubble mask, and it holds the mic to my face no matter which way I look or turn. I can always talk, so I can play the guitar without having to look for a mic.
But seeing the guy live is sort of, you get an idea of, like, you know, how talented he is, you know, and when you get to see it all happen at one time, you're just like, oh my God.
There's something special about it, certainly. I think it takes a special kind of courage to be assuming the entire burden of entertaining the crowd by yourself. Just one person like that. And not just in playing one instrument, but in shouldering the burden of being an entire band by yourself. I mean, obviously, that takes us, no, I don't know if it's courage or dementia. I mean, based on the subject of this film, I'd say there's a pretty healthy mixture of the two of them.
I got a question. How's my hair look? I spent all day on the motherfucker. I don't
care what people think. I play guitar, and that's what I do. And, oh, novelty. I don't know, what do you call rock and roll? It's rock and roll.
Rock and roll. You don't think, you feel, you know? I think that's the prime directive here.
I drove a school bus for a little while, and I was given a buckle for being the best school bus driver, 1989. And it's a shitty job. You get paid an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the afternoon, and that's not enough to eat bacon. I like to eat bacon.
What I want them to see, I want them to see me play guitar and kick a drum. That's what I want you to see, because that's what I do, people. I ain't no TV radio announcer. I don't talk so good, but I can play guitar. That's what I do on Bob Laws.
Play drums with my feet, so I'm physically sort of running long distances for each song. One song I clocked myself at almost a half a mile, and that's just one song. And some of those songs I'm hopping, so I'm kind of like hopping for a half a mile.
I've tried stomping on a drum and playing guitar at the same time, and it's just like you don't realize it until you actually kind of sit down and try and do it, but it is not easy.
There's always this great possibility of like failure, you know, because, you know, when you've got like 4 people on a stage playing rock and roll, I mean, there's always a chance that somebody will fuck it up for you, but at the same time, you know, somebody can cover up for you.
If it sucks, it's me, right? Which I'm sure might be something going through every one-man band's mind. The first time I went busking, I was kind of nervous. Busking was a lot more fun. People rapping over my Game Boy music, people breakdancing to it. I can remember one instance when I was busking, I found this really great sound that, like, you know, a combination of delay and all these filters. And I found that I had tuned everyone out on the street. Like, I was just there working on it. I totally tripped upon this great sound. I was just like, this is really good. I like how the music is made. It's made on a Game Boy. It's made on a Nintendo Game Boy, and I really like to think about playing this stuff for the people who made this and showing them how much I've expanded this. I am so mobile right now. I have a Game Boy and a suitcase and a portable amplifier, and I'm going to be building it all into one box. I am going to be able to walk around with a case, throw down, turn it on, and play anywhere in a matter of seconds. I was busking in Tokyo in a place called Yoyogi Park, and that's a park where lots of musical acts go to play on the weekends. So they set up all their gear and they have a power generator and they just play for people who visit the park and people who are walking by. So I packaged my gear in a mobile unit that was all battery powered and set up on the sidewalk and played. People were interested in what I was doing because I wasn't a band. I did not have drums, a guitar, or a keyboard, or a singer for that matter. So people walking by would be curious, as to how I was making these sounds and what was making this noise from this little box I had. Busking was a lot of fun, but unfortunately it didn't pay the bills. I was lucky enough to get some jobs in television.
そろそろ教えてくださいよ。ウェブマネーって何すか？
あれなんだっけかウェブマネーって知ってる？知らない。知らないって。意地悪！
ネットショッピングの新しい支払い方法、ウェブマネー誕生。
Well, see, I've always had a real interest in like bands or like people who are doing messed up things.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the kind of guy, that's maybe a little nuts, then maybe one-man band is the way to go, and you could probably make some really cool music, some really like fucked up music.
Bob Locke Jr., he's a crazy man. Well, see, you meet my family, I'm the normalist one.
Parents are somewhat quizzical about what I'm doing today, no, they've heard the records, but they have never seen the show. Creative process is great as a one-man band because it's like it's spontaneous combustion. You just blow up. You do what you want when you want it right away, and it's all there, and you feel this great big sound.
Well, I'm Coco, as you can see here. Coco, the electronic monkey wizard from Man or Astroman, who has been lucky enough to actually be on tour with the Lonesome Organist.
Maybe the most remarkable thing about my show, and something that I haven't heard anybody else do, is I probably am like the Rush of one-man bands. Like there's a definite dexterity thing going on.
I don't know if they know what they're getting into when they first come and check this out. And it's sort of like the setup that he has is definitely a rare one, unfortunately.
Like Lonesome Organist has his drums and his organ here and his guitar. That's his technology, right? And it's just not all automated. He's the automator, which is talent.
Sometimes they really like it and they get into it, and sometimes they just don't stop thinking about it enough to see if they like it because they're too busy watching what's going on and seeing who's playing and what's going on and how's he doing it or what's really pre-recorded, and they're trying to see what the gimmick is, like there's something that's not right.
What can I say? The Lonesome Organist, the king of multitasking.
As if a human can play like that, like all at the same time. That's so crazy.
Watching him work or watching him record, he kind of does everything at once. And then when he tries to go in the studio, if he has to just do one thing, he can't do it very well. He's like built this skill up by being able to do two things at once. So play a keyboard and play the drums. He's good on each thing individually, but the songs and the material that he's writing isn't really conducive for separating and breaking it down into small elements because it's composed to be one thing.
I listen to everything. I always have. So I would hope that my act reflects that, and I think it does. People always complain about it, really, and you say that that's a negative aspect, which it's fucking not.
Our history is cyclical in the sense that things come and go. Like, you know, for a while, maybe that kind of independent entrepreneur, it was in, and then maybe the company, you know, corporations or whatever has taken over. And now maybe as a result of this kind of proliferation of mass marketing and corporate sort of attitude, perhaps it is relevant to bring someone like Lonesome back into that kind of milieu and kind of disrupt that kind of organization. And certainly, maybe he is a threat, and that's a good thing.
The real reason Man or Astroman has chosen to align itself with the Lonesome Organist is strictly in the name of efficiency. I mean, Man or Astroman is all about reaching maximum efficiency level, and with an individual like the Lonesome Organist, I mean, that is about peak efficiency right there. I mean, multitasking, it's all rolled up in one, something that we could only aspire to.
Like I can barely play like a real instrument on my own, like a guitar. I'm like, but he's just like, I'm the best, like nuts, just crazy.
I am a show off, and I love to show off, and I love to play my instruments, all of them, as well as I can, and generally as fast as I can. It's a job for 4 or 5 people, and you got to do it all yourself. So that's harder.
You got your hand full. You don't get time to get lonely. You don't.
Downside is I have to carry everything. Upside is I get all the beer and usually most of the pizza.
I guess it's the ultimate DIY concept, you know, just like forget about just pressing your own shirts at home. It's like, yeah, like do away with the whole rest of the band, basically. Like, don't need them.
Just someone that loves music enough to do it all the time, every day. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that before.
Everybody knows what a one-man band is, but lots of people have never really seen a one-man band. So, you know, where does that come from? So this is Pete.
And this is Andrea.
He's a one-man band.
She's a one-woman band.
And we are the world's only one-man woman band duo.
I was walking down Spark Street at noontime in Ottawa, which is a pedestrian mall, and there was a band playing. I could hear the band playing up the street, and there was a big crowd around the band, and I could hear the harmonica player, and I could hear the drummer, and I could hear the singer, and I could hear the banjo player, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a neat song that band's playing. And so I had the image completely in my head of more or less what these guys look like. And when I approached and came through the crowd, it was one guy. And I was like, hey!
So we just got a drum, cut it in half, and it was basically just going to all these different music stores and just, you know, trying little bits and pieces of, do you have this and do you have that, and just running to the hardware store and getting some more screws, and oh, this is not long enough, this is too short, this is too. So it was really, really hard, and but we did it, and you know, that's the way it works.
I swam in the mud, but I couldn't escape it. The ground is giving it to the max. Tall tales are whispering through the cracks. If I'm not wrong.
When you play on the street, it's so amazing because the people who stop to see you, they're just looking at you and their whole attention is on you. So I'm really spoiled with that. It's hard for me to play indoors nowadays.
Do envy all those in good housing who would occupy such a lousy home.
When I met Andrea, I was only playing guitar. We met in Europe. I was just busking on the street, and she walked by, and we started talking. And it was about 2 or 3 months after I met Andrea that I had returned to Canada and finally built the first one-man band.
I thought, if you can do it, I can do it too. So I started playing the 3 or 4 songs that I learned, and I thought, well, I can build a one-man band too. And so I did.
The first thing I do when I'm putting my one-man band thing on is I pop these out. The length of all these things has to be pretty much just the right length, so that if it's too much, then you have to lean forward to get the sound. But if you get it just to the right length, you can just take a normal step, and it'll just close right at the point when your foot hits the ground. Same on that side. So I always try to find solutions to make myself still able to move, and when you got the wah-wah on the ground with your foot, you're stuck. So I figured out this way, which kind of incorporates the natural strum of the part of the greatness of the whole idea of one-man band is that the instruments you see only exist once. Every one-man band is his own instrument.
The style of one-man band that we do, sometimes it's perceived as a bit goofy or silly or clowny. It looks goofy, but the way we do it, it's not.
He seems that thunder is on its way, and he's pretty soon. I'm getting renowned for my sixth sense.
I like performing together a lot. Playing alone is a lot more work, and you have nobody to share your success or not with. So it's a lot better to be together, I think.
I really like playing with Andrea. It's a lot of fun. I mean, we have our stressful times, just like any group, which is surely compounded by the fact that we're a couple.
We live together, we work together. Everything, we do everything together. So every year we take a month apart, and he goes and usually does songwriting, and I just either stay or go visit my family or go traveling or something. But we take this month apart, and that's, for us, it's a very healthy thing to do.
If you want to maintain a relationship, you should hide most of your instruments at all times. You know, if you ever have all the instruments in the same room, goodbye, wife.
Well, I used to jump just like a deer. Now I need a new landing gear. Used to jump picket fence. Now I'm lucky for jumping in. Too old to cut the mustard anymore. I done got too old to cut the mustard anymore.
I lived in this farmhouse and it had a party line. Now, if you're not hooked up to the party line, if you're not hooked up to the phone, your phone still rings. So it's sort of like having your phone ringing all the time, but it's never for you. So one night the phone started ringing, so I just sort of took out my butcher knife and whap, cut the wire, then grabbed the phone off the wall and threw it on the floor. And much to my surprise, there were bells inside it. Ice cream bell, telephone bell, another ice cream bell, alarm bells, desk bells. There's a squeaker. I come from a mechanical family, you know, there's been lots of inventors in my family and that sort of thing. And so when I looked at this machine, it was kind of, this is the marriage of technology and art. And I'm in love. Logic is overrated. And plus it looks a lot better when I'm doing a scale where I have to go bing, bang, bong, bing, bong, bang, 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 like it's motion. Like if it was a scale that just went ding, dang, ding, dong, do, wouldn't be very interesting.
I don't know if anybody here ever saw the movie Mary Poppins. The first 5 minutes are Dick Van Dyke playing a one-man band. And I'm just thinking, man, that's it. So I'd like to say tonight, Dick Van Dyke wrecked my life.
Right now I'm helping bring up a 4-year-old daughter, and I can go right into her school classroom and play music for the kids and get a sense of what they're learning and what's going on in the school, which I did with my 2 daughters who are 15 and 16 now.
We're putting up posters for my dad, Washboard Hank, who has a show at Loudmouth Louie's every Thursday night. And I went out last night. It's a pretty fun show, I think. I like seeing it.
Well, it is a novelty, for God's sakes. If I can make them laugh and I know exactly how I did it, I'm the winner. I had to get a new license, so I stepped up to the government counter and they gave me the new license, and I looked at it and said, "Asshole, asshole, have you seen me drive?" My father invented the world's greatest hand egg beater. He was winding me up to throw me into the business, and suddenly he died, so I just got wound up and shot off on a tangent. I actually teach kids how to build their own instruments out of garbage. And what I tell them is, you built this instrument so you can play this instrument better than anybody else in the whole world. And away they go. That's pretty good, eh? You can tell whether a thing's going to make a good sound just by the way it rings. And so I found this hubcap, and I said, well, thanks a lot. How much is that? He says, $5. And I says, well, I'm going to make it into a guitar. And he says, you are, eh? So I made it into a guitar and came back the next day and played him some tunes.
A lot of people say, hey, you're Washboard Hank's daughter? He's nuts. And sometimes they'll start talking about him without knowing, and they'll be saying how he's so zany, and when they were little they'd run away from him because he was so scary with his big crashing one-man band and his big instruments and his huge tuba, and they'll say how he scared them so much and how they can't stand Washboard Hank, he's crazy. And then someone will pipe in and say, hey, that's her dad. And they'll just be mortified, like, but he's talented.
The big bummer of the whole situation is that I've established this persona, and so anybody that's with me is Mrs. Persona, like Mrs. Washboard Hank, and I, like that's my job, for God's sakes, like Mrs. Cement Mixer, Mrs. Pizza Maker. But unfortunately, because Washboard Hank is this sort of thing, they begin to really resent it and really feel overshadowed by it, and it's not my fault.
It's summertime.
I just find technology is such a cramp. It's just cramping everything and the whole sort of modern lifestyle. And it's really fun for me to just cut through all that stuff and get right back to the totally elemental thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, now let me show you something incredibly strange. Something very, very strange. It's my recording machine. The Mysterious Asthmatic Avenger recording machine. I just have to open it here. And then you can see it. Shiny new. My mother told me I was a monster. My mother told me I'm a teenage wild man. My mother told me that I was a monster. My mother told me I'm a teenage wild man. When the moon is high, I'd be so wild. Looking for a girl, looking for a monster. When the moon is high, I'd be so wild. Looking for something to satisfy my soul. My mother told me.
I record my stuff alone at home, and it's a big shit, I could tell you. It's a big shit.
Here you have channel 1, channel 2, here you have treble, and here bass, and here you record. And everything you record will be beautiful because it's the Mysterious Asthmatic Avenger recording machine. So my poor lonely boy, take his tip from me. Take you over to the road and set it free. His name is Jesus. Just tell you, Lightning Beat Man, if I find you, I kill you, motherfucker. Remember, we played together in Belgium, here, at the first battle of the one-man bands. It was in Belgium.
I first started doing the mysterious shit for 5 years, 6 years ago, as I listened to a Hasil Adkins song, and I thought to myself, I must do this, I have to do this. And so it started at first, by listening to Hasil Adkins stuff.
Like HASIL ADKINS or whatever, he has this, you know, that same thing. He just plays his guitar, his bass drum, and his hi-hat, and it's fucking kick-ass.
I listen to Hazel. My dad loves Hazel too. I just got to play with him in LA this year, and that guy can double time. I mean, I can with my feet, but he can kind of like that, super quick, and he's wearing thongs. So he's an influence, yeah.
Be glad to try to explain what I'm doing. Well, how can you explain it when you don't know yourself?
My dad, in the 50s, 1957, said, if you want to learn to play that guitar, come on out. And he said, watch Hasil. So he took me out what's called the Hole in the Wall, which is still famous to anybody that knew it. Sat right up here on the hill. All they did was fight up there. They'd throw you through the wall, and I had a fight up there. A guy came in, knocked 4 of my teeth loose.
Now, I played here, I don't know, 53, 54, something like that. Then I played, I don't know, in the 60s some, in the 70s some, and me and Jimmy come out here in the 90s to play some. Was it a big place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Real big place.
Yeah, Billy was.
Nah, I thought it was a nice place, you?
Yeah, well.
Had it upstairs too and downstairs. Man, you just hunch all over the place, you know. Turn the lights down low, where nobody couldn't see you. Well, I woke up in the morning, honey, looking out my door, trying to see my baby, couldn't see your whole world. You know that woman took off a left hand. Took off just like a bird. Well, I had a little mama one time, she said to stay with me. Got up in the middle of the night, baby took off down the road. It was pouring down the rain. Said I'd run him off. Called me up on the phone, said, baby, look here. Why do you run this hunching thing off for? Didn't know a thing about it was drunk. Yeah, baby. Woo!
Fact is, in Arkansas, a big record collector beside the road. I said, have you got any HASIL ADKINS? He said, I never heard of him. I said, too bad. I said, let me tell you about him. I said, he's the world famous rockabilly in the world. I never heard of him. He said, I've been collecting records for years. I never heard of him. I said, well, that's too bad, because if you had it was on the international news, if you had one single copy of Chicken Walk. In fact is, we just picked up a collection book of collectibles, albums and records. And Elvis himself doesn't have a singles worth as much as the King's Chicken Walk. If you had it, it's worth $5,000. I went away in that Cadillac, and that guy I know, he was thinking, he's crazy. The man is crazy.
Oh, this is HASIL ADKINS, and this is Jessica White, Dancing Outlaw. And HASIL here, he knowed my daddy before I even come along. He danced for HASIL for many years in the beer joints. As I was growing up a young boy, and I hit a lick or two for HASIL. I've danced for him just like my daddy did. In beer joints, that's been way back there. You put way back there and today together, you got something.
Right.
And we're still kicking and rocking.
There you go.
And he does his type of thing, I do mine, but we get together, we'll all get crazy.
He's wild and crazy, makes people think he's gonna kill him, but he's tame as a little fly, you know. He just stings a little bit, and then, but don't go around him when he's on his mad spell like Jesco. They're twins. They'll shoot your ass off.
Yeah, Pop Fork River and a top paper shack lives a world famous one-man band. His name is HASIL Hayes and it's a 90s craze. World famous one-man band. He does a chicken walk, he makes a boogie talk, hunches on Saturday night. Name is HASIL Hayes and it's a 90s craze. World famous one-man band. Hey, watch me, I'm the best in the world. Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Day ain't nothing. I'm the best of Billy White Cyrus, he ain't nothing. What?
He's got a lot of weird stories to tell about his life, and you get the impression that he's led a pretty crazy life. He does a lot of crazy things. Some would say stupid things. He's been in trouble with the law enough in his hometown to pretty much clarify the fact that he's done a lot of stupid things.
Way back I wanted to play my records, I said, watch this. I got a radio. Well, you know, so big. And I turned it around and changed things and switched it would put back out. So I had my home station. It was going back out the other way, and I said, yeah. So I would get out and drive, you know, and have records on the machine to play and see how far it's reaching out. Oh, he's doing pretty good. I went out by 8 or 10, 12 miles. I said, well, that's good enough right now. We'll see whether anybody like it or not. But what I was doing, they had a station out of Charleston, WKAZ. I was knocking it out. You don't own it all. And I wasn't smart enough to get the machine where I could change it. Man, listen. It wasn't over 2 or 3 months, he'll come all kind of people from Washington. Antina, I was calling the police reporters on them cars. They was going every which way. I said, man, I gotta hide something. You know, they're trying to find where you come from. I took it and buried it. So we cooled down and got it back out and used it again. Here they come again. I said, all right, I'll dig another hole. They never did find it. They was getting close, though. Oh, shoot, they put you in the pen for it, you know. No license, no nothing.
Hey, one of my favorite Hasil Adkins stories probably is one of the first ones I ever heard, which was when he was first signed to Norton Records. Billy Miller and Miriam Lena brought him over to New York, and one day when they left the house and left him in the house alone, he ended up eating a can of soup, which wouldn't have been a big deal, but it was an autographed can by Andy Warhol, an autographed Campbell soup can. And the fact that he didn't think anything twice about it, and when they asked him about it afterwards, he was, oh, I ate that. I threw the can in the garbage. I think that sort of gives you an idea of Hasil's mentality and rural sort of backwoods charm.
We couldn't believe that we actually got to play a show with him, and it's really funny. The first time we went down to West Virginia, we were like, wow, like most people would be if they were playing with Chuck Berry, and we're like, wow, we're playing with Hasil, oh my God, and we're talking to him, we're so excited, and everybody down there is just like, it's just Hasil. You know, we couldn't believe that they weren't as fired up about it as we were. Well, he has his own sense of time, and
right,
kind
that's
of
what it was.
threw you guys
Right.
off, as I recall.
Totally.
But his performance was solid.
His performance was solid. I remember he was kind of dancing around, too. You never see Hasil dance. He's always sitting behind a drum kit with a guitar. He was actually standing up singing like, you know, like a regular Tony Bennett or something.
He was.
I remember that.
He had the moves going. The crowd was going crazy.
Loco.
It don't matter what I play, they seem like. If it's out of tune, in tune, or what I did. You know, a lot of times you get everything right. But they don't care, they like it. They come up to me, man, great. I said, well, look, I'll get worse for it. If you like it, I'll get worse for me.
I definitely think your music can get a lot more screwed up, you know, when you're doing your own thing. And I mean, say somebody like Hasil Adkins, I mean, like, he's not working with, you know, 3 other people. So when he wants to stop the song, he can stop the song. When he wants to, like, you know, ramble on in the middle of a verse, he can do that, you know? And it doesn't, you know, the song still goes, it doesn't end.
I tried all kind of bands. I'm a professional player. What it is, I don't play to no beat. I just play to what I want to play, you know, in my mind, and they can't do it. I go up, they go down on the chords, you know.
Every eye in the whole bar was focused on him. And he was screaming, and the more we clapped and went Yahoo or whatever else we did there, the more insane he got.
Billy got a big book in New York City, and so you have to sign that book before you go in there. If you get hurt, well, it's your own fault. Oh, they like that. Well, you get better, they like it.
Considering the wild and frenzied life that Hasil has led, it's kind of remarkable that the man is still alive. And I guess maybe the life he's led is actually what's kept him alive. Maybe if he was working in an office somewhere, he would have like drank himself into oblivion by now. But maybe the fact that he can actually act out the wild man in real life is basically gives him reason to continue on doing what he does so well.
you gotta love what you're doing, or you're gonna quit. That's the bottom line. If you quit, you didn't love it. You're just doing it for the money. And that's you know, that's what some people do. That's all right, I guess. But that's not why I do it.
It's nice to see a tireless performer who's willing to try and entertain. And I think you really get different reactions when you see somebody enjoying it. You know, nobody wants to watch a band who feels like the whole room sucks and they hate being out there and they hate the way they sound. And you know, you sense that. You know, we're not dumb. I've been watching shows for a lifetime, so I think that's a big part of it, really.
It's hard for a band these days to sort of do anything for me that I've never seen before, you know? And even a really good rock and roll band, it's like, well, yeah, they're really good at what they do, but it's like, I've heard it a million times.
Right now, it's, you know, the pop music scene is so saccharine and just leveled out, you know, so no jagged edges. I mean, the obvious antithesis is just one kook with a guitar and a funny drum kit just like spazzing out, right? It's like, this hasn't been tested on anybody, you know, like maybe the cat at home, but, and then, you know, it didn't like it very much, so.
That's what's funny. They can hate you till they find out you're good. Hank Williams said that once. He said, when I was nothing, they didn't like me at all. Said, then they want me to kiss their babies when I became famous.
I was very, very antisocial kid, and I'm still that way. I've always had trouble communicating and was, didn't fit in with anybody and all that kind of stuff. I started playing music in high school. I got my first guitar, and I played with friends of mine, Steve and Rob. Rob would bang on some pots and pans and stuff, and he became Rob Zombie from White Zombie later on. In the beginning, I wasn't really good enough to get in a regular bluegrass band, but I loved the music and I wanted to play the banjo, so I kind of did the one-man band because I could, and I couldn't get in a bluegrass band that was real good because I wasn't technically at their level. It didn't seem like a big thing to think of to me. It just seemed like I wanted to have a guitar sound and I wanted to do it by myself. So how would you do that? With your feet? It just seemed kind of obvious. When I've talked to one-man bands, and a lot of them develop these like back problems, or like they screw up their legs and feet because they have to do these things that are not really very natural. Like I have problems with my feet and my legs too. The left foot does the chords using these, there's a bunch of pedals that press down on the frets for whatever fret I need to play. And then the other foot runs this rhythmic contraption over here, and it plays the bass on the guitar. There are guitar picks that pluck the strings. They're underneath here. So it's kind of playing a real simple bass guitar riff while I play other instruments with my hands, like either the dobro or the banjo. I switch off, playing lead on one or the other. And then the cowbell does an offbeat, just a clanking sound. That in a bluegrass band, the mandolin does a sound that's similar to in the rhythm to where the golf ball would hit. It hit, the bass sounds first, and then the golf ball hits. So it does a basic bluegrass rhythm. I like when people are different. Like, I've always been interested in strange things or different things. You've heard a claw hammer banjo? Well, this is what a claw hammer banjo is. Looks like. This is a fretless. Oh, there's the top of the first guitar machine. This guitar was, I got it in a yard sale in Tucson. There have been 6 different versions of the guitar machine so far. I think I just did the one-man band thing because it was practical. It was practical at the time for playing on the street. I figured I could probably rig up something that would be interesting to watch and maybe could be musical somehow. I make a living basically from playing on the street, and then the way I look at playing in clubs, you have to prove yourself to them somehow with your press kit, or if you have friends that know somebody that tells them and all that crap. So when you play on the street, you just go play, and if people want to listen to you, they stop, and there's not all that, it cuts out all that stuff. Best times of doing the one-man band have been when I was on the street playing, and like little kids will come by and start dancing or something, and it's just nothing, there's no like big revelation happening or anything. It's just a good feeling, and I'll think, this is great. This is, I'm playing music, I feel good, there's people enjoying it, and it's just a cool thing. There have been bands that I've been in where there have been more than one idea of what is supposed to be happening, and a lot of times that really drags the band because you're constantly trying to go in 2 or 3 different directions at the same time, which, you know, that happens to all bands, I think. Doing a one-man band is neat because you don't have that. You just do what you want.
You know, I think about it all the time when we're like cramped in our little spaceship that's cleverly disguised as a van, and the odor starts getting, you know, I don't know if you know that odor from the back of the van, I mean spaceship, that smell of kind of the crew of Astromen, and many times I think we all consider the idea or the option of doing this by ourselves and only having to exist in our own stench and not have to put on these filtration suits in order to prevent our own odors from driving each other crazy.
Yeah, like I think there's far more benefits to doing one-man band than there is being in a band with multiple people. Like, you're your own boss. You don't have to deal with other people. You don't have to worry about transportation issues. You don't have to worry about coordinating practices, getting together to record, creative arguments. Those are all gone.
I don't feel like, well, geez, if I just worked with this other person, I could really get something more great going on, because it's like, I just don't feel like that.
She's just doing what I want, I suppose, with, and not having anybody else to tell me that I suck, you know, until the reviews come out.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Every night you got to get a little better. Especially when you're a one-man band. There ain't no band meetings about that. It's like, you're gonna try this? You already did. You did it. Do it again.
You know, there's so few people that can do this kind of thing. They're really good at it, you know, really talented, and that just, they have a vision of like what they're trying to do and they do it.
The way I look at it is one-man bands are musicians that happen to be playing a bunch of instruments at the same time. They're not any different than any other musicians. They're just doing it all by themselves.
I'm just doing what I want to, so it's not hard, and there ain't no point in changing anything because I like it just the way it is.
I don't want to stop doing it. It's fun.
I wouldn't really know what else to do, you know, if I didn't do this, because this is like I live for it.
If I'm doing what I want to do, then that's the bottom line. And you know, people can take it or leave it. Sometimes they take it and sometimes they leave it. In both cases, that's fine. You know, I'd rather they enjoyed it, and sometimes they do. But I'm gonna do what I want to do.
I just love what I'm doing. Even what it is, I just love it. You know, I guess I'll do till I die, because I just love what I'm doing, as long as I'm able to do it.
Or you can be a one-man band if you want to. We're all one-man bands, so come on out here and kick my ass.
Go home, cheese! Everybody's got in the house. Everybody has to go in the house. Sleep well, good night, bye-bye, good night.